Good afternoon. I'm Ed Pozzuoli, and this is the continuing series of webcasts brought to you by Tripp Scott. When you were governor of New Mexico, talk about that experience of translating from being a successful businessman to being a successful governor.
I started a one-man handyman business in Albuquerque in 1974, and actually grew that to over 1,000 employees in 1994. Really, American dream come true. Show up on time, do what you say you'll do for people, do a little bit more than what you say you'll do for people. Reason for business success. So running for governor of New Mexico, I've always been an entrepreneur. I view my venture into politics as entrepreneurial. Never been involved. But what I said running for governor was I was going to run state government like a business, that everything was going to be a cost-benefit analysis. What are we spending our money on, and what are we getting for the money that we're spending? And that it was going to be about issues first and politics last. And I'll tell you, Ed, I had a great experience over 8 years doing just that.
Was there some conflict from time to time in utilizing your veto pen? I take it that you weren't shy about that.
I had the distinction of probably vetoing more legislation than the other 49 governors in the country combined. I vetoed 750 bills. I had thousands of line items. Only 2 were overturned, so it made a difference when it came to billions of dollars worth of spending. And it made a difference when it came to legislation that government really layers on all of us when it comes to regulation that ends up costing us a lot of time and a lot of money, and doesn't really make a difference when it comes to the end of the transaction.
Now, as part of your tenure as governor, I saw that you were able to reduce the state payroll and by some 1,200 employees without firing anybody. How did you manage that?
We just managed attrition, and that was something that I thought we could do. So as governor of New Mexico, we went from 12,000 employees to 10,800 over a period of 8 years. That had never happened before. It had never happened before that there were fewer state employees from year to year. Never, not once. And like I say, I think that was a testament to state government employees doing more with less.
And part of that is that your ability to never raise taxes, Governor.
Not one penny of tax was raised over an 8-year period. And I think it really made a difference. I wish we could have reduced taxes more, but the legislature in New Mexico was 2-1 Democrat, and really we just let the coffers fill, and the coffers were full when I left office.
And even what would be with majority control of the legislature Democrat, you still were able to manage to push through some key reforms such as school choice and other issues like
Well,
that.
really, I was an advocate. I was perhaps more outspoken than any governor in the country regarding school choice, believing that we need to bring competition to public education. Now, I proposed for 6 straight years that every single student in New Mexico get a school voucher that would have brought about that competition to public education, but it didn't happen. But as a result of that dialogue, the legislature would have passed significant charter school legislation,
right,
which when I signed it by saying, look, just so that everyone understands, all public schools would become charter schools overnight if we passed voucher legislation, because that's the only way that they're going to compete in a marketplace that would be dictated by best product, best services at lowest prices. I'm really excited by the notion of educational entrepreneurs unleashed on our educational system to deliver better products, better services at lower prices.
But it sounds to me that your method of leadership is to engage in an honest debate about public policy and laying it out there, so as an example, the school vouchers, and then allowing the process and trying to manage the process to move the process forward. So in this case, you may not have gotten school vouchers, but you did get infusion of school choice through charter schools.
Well, and exactly. And in this context, what I'm talking about right now with Our America initiative is I believe that this country's on the verge of a financial collapse. It's in the numbers. There's no way that we pay back $14 trillion in debt when we're racking up an additional $1.6 trillion a year. It's not going to happen. So the markets are going to come to bear, are going to lend judgment on our ability to be able to do that, and we're going to have a financial collapse unless we balance the budget. And that is the one thing that we could do, but we're moving further away from that. We have to cut $1.6 trillion from the federal budget, and we need to do that right now.
So what you're saying is even the budget deal that we just saw reached that cut some $33 billion out of the budget, that doesn't go far enough.
Well, we need to be cutting 43 cents out of every dollar that we're spending. The budget deal was dealing with less than 1 penny of the 43 cents. So what got played out just this last week needs to be played out 50 more times.
Now, as a Republican, talk about civil liberties, because in reviewing your history and your positions, they seem to be forefront in all of your positions.
Well, the notion of what is this country about, and isn't this country about liberty and freedom, and that we accept the personal responsibilities that go along with that. Everything I've did as governor of New Mexico was a cost-benefit analysis. What are we spending and what are we getting for the money that we're spending? Right now, everything I'm doing with regard to the federal government is what are we spending our money on and what are we getting?
Right.
In that context, I really wanted to take a hard look at the war on drugs. I wanted to include legalization as a potential alternative, and I came at this from the standpoint that half of what we spend on law enforcement, the courts, and the prisons is drug-related, and to what end?
Right.
We're arresting 1.8 million people a year in this country on drug-related crime. We now have 2.3 million people behind bars on drug-related crime. I would ask those that watch this webcast, if you haven't done it, look at the issue. Just get online, look at the issue. See if in a fairly short amount of time you don't come to the same conclusion that I have, and that is that 90% of the drug problem is prohibition-related, not use-related, and that's not to discount the problems with use and abuse, but that ought to be the focus. So I advocated in 1999 and do today. Legalize marijuana, control it, regulate it, tax it. It's never going to be legal to smoke pot, become impaired, get behind the wheel of a car, or do harm to others, and it's never going to be legal for kids to smoke pot or buy pot, and under which situation is it going to be easier for kids to smoke pot or buy pot? The one that exists today where marijuana is available anywhere and the person that sells marijuana also sells harder drugs, or a situation where that individual has to produce an ID in a controlled environment to buy it? I think you could make the case that it would be harder to buy it in that controlled environment.
Well, let me move on to one last topic since we covered the economy and civil liberties. Let's talk about national defense. Our government now is involved with effectively 3 wars overseas. What's your position on that?
Well, first of all, we need to be cutting 43% of the budget. Defense is part of that. I think the operative word here is, can we provide a strong national defense for ourselves and still cut our military spending by 43%? I think we can, and maybe it isn't military spending, but it's the nation-building part of this, that we cannot continue to nation build when we have our own nation to build. I would have been opposed to us going into Iraq at the very beginning. I thought that we had the military surveillance capability to see Iraq roll out any weapons of mass destruction. I thought if they did that, we could have gone in and dealt with that situation militarily. I thought if we went into Iraq, we would find ourselves in a civil war to which there would be no end. Afghanistan is a great example of what our military is for. We were attacked by Al-Qaeda, by Osama bin Laden. We attacked back. We went into Afghanistan. After 6 months, we had effectively wiped out Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. That was 10 years ago. We're building roads, schools, bridges, highways, and hospitals in Iraq and Afghanistan, and we're borrowing 43 cents out of every dollar to do that. I think we're going to be of no good to any country worldwide bankrupt, and that's where we put ourselves. The Libyan conflict. I'm opposed to what we did in Libya, A through Z. Where was the congressional authorization for us to go in and attack Libya? Where in the Constitution does it say that because we don't like a foreign leader, we're going to go in and topple the foreign leader? Have we not injected ourselves into a civil war in Libya? Who are the rebels? And don't 5 other countries right now in the Middle East qualify for the same military intervention that has happened in Libya? Where was the threat? Where was the threat to our national security? And if it existed, why wasn't it on the radar screen 2 months ago?
Right.
So I just see this as an unending military conflict worldwide that puts us in a position of being bankrupt.
So let's move on now. Your future plans. Your travel plans take you to New Hampshire in the next week or two, and I know that you're at least looking at some things. Can you talk about our American initiative and where that might lead you?
Well, it's rumored that I'm going to be announcing my candidacy for president.
That's the rumor.
That's the rumor. I'm going to be in New Hampshire, and I guess maybe we'll see if there's any interest in that. But that would be next Thursday.
Well, I tell you what, it's been an enlightening morning, and I appreciate you joining us this morning. And so, with that, we wish you the best of luck, Governor.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.